for scones. Okay, so if you see a recipe that says rub-in method or cut-in method, this is what you're doing. We're working with all chilled butter, eggs, and liquids, and our dries are sifted. So in here we have bread flour and pastry flour, salt and baking powder, and sugar, right? Okay, so nice and airy and fluffy. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna cut our butter into the dries. So the butter is already cut into cubes, and I want to rub this into my dry ingredients so that I'm coating my gluten strands or my proteins so that they are slipping on each other and creating a short texture. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna toss the butter first and just separate the chunks so that the butter is actually coated in the dry ingredients, and then I'm going to rub everything together. Oh, if you're in the sun or if you have hot hands, it's really common to work in the refrigerator. Just take your rolling rack with you as a station, and then you can work in there. Really important to keep your ingredients cold. So now that my pieces are coated in the dry ingredients, I'm going to actually rub it in. So in the actual dries, I'm rubbing my thumb into it and just trying to break up the pieces so that they're a little bit smaller. Remember, we want biscuits to be flaky. So I'm not breaking my butter down very small. I want them to be about the size of a walnut half. And then I just continue tossing it so that the new pieces of exposed butter are getting coated in those dries. And so that I'm grabbing whatever butter is stuck on the bottom of the bowl up into the top so I can work it. If you've ever seen kind of like an old school baker use a pastry cutter, you know that thing that has like the wires in it? Mm-hmm. That's essentially what that's doing, is cutting the butter into the dries like this. I don't usually like to use them because I feel like I have more control of my hands. I'm a big believer that your clean hands are your best tools. I don't mind getting my hands dirty. I think this might feel a little unnatural to some people because they're so used to using a tool for everything, but your hands are the oldest tools that you have. I like to be able to get a feel for what's actually happening inside my bowl. That's why with biscuits I don't use a machine. That's one of the reasons why, is so that I'm not overworking the gluten, but that I can also feel if there's big pieces, small pieces, and be able to make a better assessment. You kind of have to, when you're choosing as a baker how you're going to produce and what types of machines you're going to buy, or if you're going to mix things by hand, or whatever your procedures are that you're going to be teaching your employees, you need to think about efficiency and time management, as well as your overhead costs and stuff like that. So if you're making big batches of these, you know, is it worth it for you to use a mixer, or is it worth it to you to be using or have your employees do everything by hand? You know, is it worth it to you to run the risk of overworking something so your quality is going down just for the sake of efficiency? I don't know. That's something that you have to kind of work out for yourself. So opening a business is not just as simple as here's your recipes, here's our machines. You kind of need to work all those details out.
How do you feel about a food processor doing the dough thing?
I'm not crazy about it.
I've seen people.
Yeah, I think that's more of a home application. You guys can see the size of my butter is fairly big. So I'm not working it very fine. For scones, you want your butter to be worked to about like that, like small.
Like pill size almost.
Like pill size, like a pea. Okay, all of your butter. Okay, now, before I add my liquids, if you have any mix-ins that need to go in, bacon, scallions, cheese, cranberries, whatever it is, it goes in now before your liquids. That's really important. You guys have cheese left. Okay, good. We're gonna use some cheese on the top before we bake them. So,
Should I wait a little more right now then?
no, you can wait. You have time. This has to chill and then chill again. So all of your mix-ins go in. Ooh, those are strong. I used to use chives in my biscuits. And then I learned that scallions actually make it taste better. So I'm just gonna toss this in. Not trying to break up the butter at all. I want the butters to still remain a little bit bigger. Once you mix your liquids in, it gets really difficult to mix anything else in. You're gonna overwork your gluten. So you wanna add whatever it is that you're adding in. This goes for scones too. Chocolate chips, strawberries, almond paste, all of that. Now we're gonna combine our liquids. Remember yesterday we talked about buttermilk. Is the byproduct of butter making. So you have some nice acid in here that's going to act as a tenderizer for your product and make it crumble in your mouth, make it nice and tender. Easier to mix everything up before you add it in, so it's all homogeneous. I like to do this a little at a time where I'm kind of mixing in with one hand and pouring with the other. So I add a little bit and I kind of start in the middle and make like a well and then start to bring in the ingredients from the edge. So the reason you want to keep your liquids cold is because that's helping your butter not melt as you're working with it. Remember, bake shops are usually pretty warm because of the ovens. So now I'm just kind of like squeezing it together as I'm folding it in. The texture of this is what some recipes refer to as a shaggy mass, like a shaggy dog, except instead of a dog, it's mass, M-A-S-S. Because it's not totally like smooth. It just kind of looks like you're like, oh, I feel like I should mix that more, because you're afraid that it looks a little bit too dry, but it's not. If you keep trying to mix it, your butter is gonna melt, and then you're not gonna have all the layers that you want. Pulling up from the bottom and trying to fold it in because a lot of the dries get stuck on the bottom. So just make sure you're getting all of those suckers in. Now I'm using the heel of my hand and kneading it all in. So this is the texture that they refer to as a shaggy mass, if you guys want to pass that around so you can all see. So it's not totally smooth. You can still see butter chunks in it. There's still a little bit of dries left in the bottom, but I'm going to incorporate that all in. I'm going to dump this onto the station, and we're going to work with it.
It's like pasty.
Yeah. Okay, you're videoing, right? Can you grab a scoop of all the big chunks of butter? Just gonna slide that in. Notice that I didn't put a ton of flour in because I don't want to, add a lot. just enough so it's not sticking. Can you guys see? And I'm just gonna give this a very rustic, roll it out to about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch thick. It doesn't have to be perfect. See all that butter? Yum, layers. So you don't have to be perfect with this, like when you're doing, what's it called?
Cookies.
The other one. Lamination, thank you. You don't have to pay attention to like, oh, it has to be 11 inches by 21 inches or anything like that. Just roll it out nice and rustic. If you have dough stuck to your pin, rub it off so that it gets incorporated back into your dough. And if you are sticking, just use your bench scraper to help you out. And you're gonna give this a 3-fold. So top comes, or bottom comes about there, and then this comes down to meet it. Now this is gonna go into the refrigerator to rest. You can see nice big chunks of butter. So we're going to wrap this in plastic wrap, let it chill about 20 minutes, and then we're gonna roll it back out to about 1 inch thick. These have cheese. Okay, so we're gonna egg wash the tops. I'm gonna show you guys a specific way to cut these so that you're not destroying the shape of them and you're not destroying the layers. It's kind of like when we do donuts in Bake Shop 1. You have to press down and just wiggle it. You don't want to twist it. If you twist it, you're gonna seal up all those layers, so it's never gonna puff in the oven. So we're gonna chill, roll out to 1 inch, no smaller than 1 inch. If you go smaller, they're gonna taste like hockey pucks. They're gonna be too stiff when they come out. So about 1 inch. Egg wash only on the top. That's really important. Don't let it drip down the sides, because again, if it drips down the sides, it glues all your layers together. So only on the top. We're gonna top it with the cheese so that we know there's cheese in here. It tells the customer, hey, there's more than just butter in here. And then when they come out of the oven, because you know people love fat, we're gonna douse it with melted salted butter.
Yes.
Chef Kazam taught me that.
Of course.
Great. All right, so we're gonna chill this so that it lets the gluten relax. So we're not overworking it, we're not fighting with it. Same method for your all biscuits, all scones. Make sure if you have any mix-ins that you do it before the liquids get added in. Cold, everything for biscuits and scones. Room temp for muffins. Scones, the butter gets worked much finer and it doesn't get a fold.